To me, the community has three things: love, kindness, and respect. If you just have those three things, those are not political statements. They're not
No.
right or left or anything like that. It's humanity. It's like, the old saying, there's only one race, the human race. When you frame it and people buy into it, it's like, I can be loving, I can be kind, I can be respectful, I can share.
Dr. Elia Gourgouris, also known as America's Happiness Doctor, is the author of the #1 best-selling Amazon book, 7 Paths to Lasting Happiness, which has been translated into 5 languages. He co-authored the highly acclaimed book, 7 Keys to Navigating a Crisis, a practical guide to emotionally dealing with pandemics and other disasters. The first half of his career, he built a thriving private practice as a clinical psychologist. And that was all word of mouth, before moving on to becoming an executive coach and working with C-suite leaders and an international keynote speaker. His message is featured in respected publications and media around the world. Very happy to have him on the show today. Please give a warm welcome for this special episode to Dr. Gourgouris. Great to see you, sir.
Todd, it's great to see you again, and I look forward to a wonderful conversation with you.
Well, I appreciate it. So this show, Talk About Your Community, has been, I'll call it on the air, on the web for about 2-3 years now. And I try to bring in the voices of people who are adjacent to and allied with the concept of building better communities in online spaces. And so I was eager to reconnect with you because I think we connected up some years back during the pandemic. And so that we might have a chance to talk a little bit about the important work that you're doing around happiness and positive psychology, and how we might be able to apply some of these lessons to building better, safer, kinder, happier spaces, online and off. But of course, I spend a lot of time thinking about how we connect in online spaces. So thanks for being on the show.
Thank you for having me. And you've already used enough adjectives that I'm going to share in more detail already. So I think you're on the right path, my friend.
I appreciate that very much. So I guess I'll start with a loaded question. What does a happy online space look like to you?
And that's a unique question, I have to tell you. So I've probably done, since the last time you and I met, I've probably done over 350 podcast interviews worldwide. So at far and wide. So to get a unique question, because a lot of them, the questions are pretty much the same. That's a first. So I kind of like it because it's a little challenging. But I think an online happy community is not that different from a happy community, whether it's your own family or extended family, or the relationship with our friends, or in our communities that we actually live in and we breathe and walk and so on. There's some unique aspects to an online community. In the pandemic, interestingly enough, opened up a world, I think for all of us, for you and I, for sure. That's how we met, to be with friends that we have not even physically met yet. Some of them we have, but the majority of the people we've met are like, and they're all over the world. I mean, and it's beautiful that way. So in some ways, the world got, smaller and more intimate that way. I'm a people person, so for me, the physical, I've lectured both keynotes physically, and I love doing that. It's different when you do it online. But I've learned in life, the older I get, the more flexible I want to be. So flexibility is actually a big part of having a happy community.
I love that. Yes.
Yeah, because if people are, and we talk about flexibility in terms of, I'll give you this analogy, the analogy of the oak tree and the palm tree. Okay, so the oak tree is this magnificent, beautiful tree that's been around for 100 years, massive, beautiful, majestic. But if there's enough rain and saturation of the ground, enough wind, guess what happens to oak trees? They come crashing down on people, cars, homes. Happens every year in hurricane season. On the flip side, palm trees, which are rather exotic and tropical and thin, at the peak of the storm, and I'm talking about the storms of life, they can bend, and sometimes they bend parallel to the ground at the peak of the storm, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when the storm passes, guess what happens to palm trees? They go right up again, and they're stronger than they were before the storm. So the call to action, of course, in life is be, during a challenge especially, be more of a palm tree than an oak tree. So people will say, well, doctor, that's a cute story, be a palm tree, that's cute. But what does that look like in actual human form when you say that? So an oak tree is someone who is, and even if they were successful in the past with doing things a certain way, when the only thing in life that we know of that's guaranteed that's going to happen over and over again is change.
Mhm.
Oak tree mentality is, well, this is how I am. This is who I am. I've been this way for 40 years. I'm not going to change now. And therefore, they get stuck, right? So people and communities who are flexible, adaptable, and open tend to be a lot happier as a result of that. So if we're so committed to doing things a certain way, I think we're going to miss out, and we're going to force people to either leave, um, be more distant. So we just have to be open, and by that I mean not just open-minded, but open-hearted.
Mhm.
You know how many people talk about, well, what is your mindset? I talk about, well, where's your heart set? Because if an online community has an open heart, that is the foundation. And in order to have an open heart with differences of opinions, right? We have to be flexible and adaptable. It doesn't mean that I have to agree, but I certainly don't want to judge because there's so much judgment and vitriol out there, as you know.
Right.
I want to get more curious. Like, Todd, why do you think that way? It doesn't mean that I have to agree with you 100% on everything, but I want to get more curious with you. And that allows that kind of flexibility to say, hey, I have my own opinions, but I want to get to know you better.
I just wanted to interject there. So this relates so well to a recent guest we just had on the show, Dr. Ruth Diaz, who does a lot of work. She did something called the Troll Project online, kind of looking at what causes people to exhibit troll-like behaviors, in spaces. And
Wow,
her,
fascinating.
yes, very fascinating project. She's a wonderful person, great colleague and friend. But one of the things that she said, I think, tracks very well with what you said. That question of curiosity and willingness to understand. And so, like, one of her approaches to dealing with people who are seeming to be difficult or transgressive or coming up against the boundaries of the guidelines of an online community space, her recommendation is not to be punitive about it, not to say, like, this is the law and you have transgressed it and therefore you are in this sort of trouble, with us, but to lead with humanity and curiosity instead of writing a nasty gram message, maybe even leaving a voice message so that you hear that human element, in the voice. And so, like, I love that lines up, really well what you're saying with something that she was suggesting about dealing with difficult situations.
Although when I deal with difficult people or toxic people, trolls included, although I'm not into, because I feel like that's just a waste of my energy, and my energy is limited. I'm getting older, so I don't deal with trolls very much. But I would say, let's say with toxic people or difficult people, I tend to have what I call a hot conversation with them, HOT, which stands for honest, open, and transparent. And those conversations are powerful. And there's two ways you can have those conversations. You can take a 2x4 and hit him in the name of transparency. What the hell's wrong with you? That's one way to do it. Or you can do it, you can still have a hot conversation and be honest and open and transparent, but do it from a place of love and do it from a place of curiosity, not a place of judgment. And when you do that, 9 times out of 10, most people will respond in kind. And if they don't, if they persist in their toxic behavior or trolling or whatever, then I have to get a little bit more, I guess, intimate with them in some ways, and bypass all the BS and say, why are you so unhappy?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because happy people have never trolled anybody.
Right.
Happy people have never criticized anybody. Happy people have never, spewed profanity and called you all kinds of names. Whether you're on the right or you're on the left, both of those sides are not listening to one another. They're just getting nastier, louder, with no curiosity and complete judgment. So for me, if somebody's trolling or somebody's being negative in a community environment and we want to change that, it's not an yes, we can ban them for sure. We can cut them off from the community if they're certain, if they don't at some point behave. But initially it's like, why are you so unhappy? Because happy people never treat other people that way. Happy people treat others with kindness, with respect, right?
Mhm.
And ultimately with love, if you want to go to the more fundamental, deeper human level.
Yeah. So I'd like to dig into that a little bit because in online contexts, frequently, um, provided if we're not in a virtual face-to-face video environment like we are here, we're dealing with others through text, which is rife with opportunities for misinterpretation, misperception of attitude or tone, especially if someone's maybe not accustomed to communicating
Sure.
online. There's the old thing about like, don't shout at me in all caps,
Right.
in the comments. Um, it's it's tricky to get intimate in those kinds of environments. And I'm always interested in tactics for sort of breaking down some of those barriers in contexts where I don't have the opportunity to say, "Hey, Ellie, let's go out for a drink," or let's go meet for a coffee,
But you can't say what you say. Let's say somebody's a bully online, right? Again, the question is, why are you so unhappy? And they're like, I'm not unhappy. What makes you think I'm unhappy? Because only unhappy people bully other people. Happy
Yeah.
people have never bullied anyone. Happy people have embraced people, have opened up their arms. They've opened up their homes. They've opened up their digital homes. They've opened
Yeah.
up their, that's what happy people do. So the thing is with that question is that you bypass all their defenses because now they know that you know about their inner workings. And that may be the clinical psychologist had me wearing that when I say that. So they can't BS you. Either they will agree and they'll have some time to reflect, especially if you do it from a place of love versus like castigating them. You say, man, why are you so miserable and unhappy? I'm not miserable. What makes you think I'm miserable? Well, you're just doing it right now. Like you just proved my point. If they go on the offensive, they prove your point. If they don't go on the offensive and they get more quiet and reflective, which would be the ideal, then it's like, perhaps there's some inner work that you need to do in order to show up differently, whether it's online or with your own family, your own friends and loved ones, right? Because if you're doing this online, I guarantee you're not a happy person at home. Guaranteed.
Mhm. Mhm.
Again, because happy people will support, encourage, even if they disagree with your point of view, they'll be polite about it. And they're like, you know what, Todd, I don't quite see it that way. Here's where I'm coming from, but I do want to get to know where are you coming from. Now, those are happy people, right?
Mhm.
There's no defensiveness in me asking you where you're coming from. It's curiosity.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if there's something wrong with me on the inside, I'm going to spew that venom and that hate and the bullying and the other stuff. So when you ask that question, it's like they're not expecting it. Number one, they're expecting a fight. They're expecting you to go crazy and ballistic, so they can do even more of that. And they can, oh, I got you, and so on. So you don't lose your cool. You just go straight for the jugular, which they don't expect, and which would cause them some distress. Either they will escalate, which we say, see, you just proved my point. End of story. Boom. The argument is standing right there. The more, oh, see, you just proved. So at that point, like they're trapped, or they get reflective and they get quiet and they own it, which would be, which is a great gift to them, right?
Mhm.
I've done that with so many people, and they're like afterwards, they didn't like it initially because nobody likes to be called out on their more intimate problems or whatever. And I don't need to know the details. I just know the state of their being an unhappy state. But after they said, you know what? Wow, thank you for doing that because nobody's ever called me out on that. And I didn't even know I was doing it out of unhappiness. I just didn't, they weren't even aware, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah. It, it occurs to me it's one of the reasons that I do like working in asynchronous online community settings where you can do a post and then someone replies when they have time to reply, like as opposed to like a live chat or a live video call where there's immediacy of response. Like I'm dealing with a moderation situation in an online community right now where there's a back and
Okay.
forth an individual who has, I'm not going to say willfully been stepping over the boundaries of supportiveness in the community, but I think has been skirting them, and as a frustrated person kind of is snarky and embittered, about some
And
of the
maybe those are the words that you use, Todd. It's like, why are you so frustrated? Why are you so bitter? Maybe it's not the word unhappiness. I mean, that's a big, 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 big word. But the other words are, well, I'm not frustrated. Why do you think I'm frustrated? I'm not bitter. Well, but that's how you come across, though. Whether you're not bitter,
right.
so why do you? So either whatever word you want to use to make those minor adjustments to that are specific for this individual, use those words. It doesn't have to be unhappy, but bitter, frustrated, angry. Use those.
I appreciate that. And so, I'm hopeful that, especially like because it is asynchronous, I post and then maybe I get a reply in the afternoon or the next morning or something like that. That's actually building in some of that time for reflection that you're talking
Absolutely. It's
about.
even better. You're right.
Yeah.
That's even better. Of course. Try it out as an experiment with him and see what happens.
Yeah, I definitely will. So, maybe kind of like turn the prism a little bit and look at this through another angle. Not so much, people who are maybe embittered or frustrated or having a difficult time with things, but looking at the question of loneliness and disconnection,
Which is an epidemic, by the way.
which is hugely
Yeah,
problematic.
yeah.
Was it the Surgeon General from the Biden administration talked about the epidemic of loneliness, and was pointing to social media as maybe one of the pieces of it. And by the way, I look at social media as a very different animal than the online communities that I work in. I see the bigger social platforms as more broadcast medium, more ephemeral, low trust kinds of environments, as
Okay.
opposed to online communities, which are by structure and by purpose generally more focused, more quality conversation, more trust building, in those kinds of spaces. But nevertheless, how can we design spaces that break down some of those barriers that are keeping people from forming relationships, from being lonely out there? It's something I think about every day. Yeah.
And a lot of us thought that the loneliness epidemic would end once the pandemic had passed, and unfortunately, it hasn't, which is sad, right? I think, first of all, the way that we set things up. So to me, there's reality versus expectations, or expectations versus reality, right?
Mm-hmm.
The greater the gap between expectation and reality, the greater the pain. Like if I expect something, but the reality is very different, that's frustrating. That's it's painful. When reality and expectations match and meet, that equals happiness. Or a different way to say that equals trust. And then when reality actually exceeds expectations, whatever the expectations are for the online community, but the reality exceeds those expectations, now that equals joy. Or in a different word, say that equals loyalty. Now I am loyal to this community because repeatedly it keeps exceeding my expectations. So where we want to play is between matching or exceeding, right? Because you build so much goodwill that way. So even no community is perfect, and things happen, and they hurt people's feelings from time to time. That does happen, just like relationships, right?
Sure.
If you have enough trust and loyalty built, when that happens, that's more of a one-off. It's like, well, that was a bad day. But overall, I really enjoy being part of this community, and I feel really connected with its members and so on, because over and over and over again, they meet the expectations that I have, or sometimes they exceed them, which is delightful and beautiful to see. So I think we need to focus some on that. Are the expectations clearly defined up front? And then are we falling short over and over and over again? Because at some point, I've been part of communities, online communities, and at some point I left.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it served its purpose, but I had certain expectations, and it seems to be going down. Okay, at some point, it's like, well, this isn't serving anymore. Like, what am I even doing here?
Mm-hmm.
Our time is limited, so I want to devote my time and energy to places where I feel both welcomed and loved, and I can contribute and I can learn. back and forth. So I think that's part of it.
As you say that, it occurs to me that, all of us are faced with opportunities now to join a lot of different communities, like
Oh my God, masterminds, webinar. I mean, it's nonstop. There's so many things over and over again. I get so many. I've stopped actually accepting because I don't live as much online as I used to. So
yeah. And I guess what I think about that is that it seems to me then maybe that that our ability to be, maybe happiness is not the word for it in this case, but maybe it's
connection,
managing ourselves and our mental health, our focus, is about making conscious choices about those spaces that serve us. Do you have like any criteria for choosing like where to spend your time, or I'm probably not going to express this very well, but it's sort of, when I like
yeah.
occupation.
I mean, I have the number one criteria, and that's across the board for anyone. Is it a kind
Yeah.
community? Is kindness is its front and center?
Mhm.
And I say that both as a kindness advocate. I'm also producing a documentary feature film right now called "For Such a Time as This," which is it's all about how a small act of kindness created a global movement of kindness. So I'm neck deep into kindness right now as we speak, and we're very close to finishing the filming and editing and starting to submit it to film festivals. So this has been going on for a couple of years. So now we're at the tail end. We got another month left and we're done with filming and editing. So kindness to me, and it started as like a small act of kindness that now has grown in different, not online real communities, but it's also expanding in the online communities throughout the world. And I'm like, how did that happen? Which is the whole premise of the documentary film. How does one small act of kindness become the trigger for kindness to continue to grow and explore and expand in our communities? And our whole goal, of course, is for every community, every municipality, every city, every town, every state, and every country, all the way to the United Nations, is to embrace World Kindness Week. And because that does change communities. And we can take that same model from the physical communities to the online communities too. So to me, if kindness is not part of it, I don't want to have anything to do with it, because I know what happens when there isn't kindness.
Mhm. Mhm. Well, I think that touches upon something that I, I see a lot these days, is like where community ends and where cult begins. And one of the things that I've observed that I think is a one of the boundary lines that kind of ebbs and flows a little bit, but between what's a healthy community concept and something that is cultish,
Right.
um, and is the level of insularity of a cult. That it's a place where they're really kind of creating a moat and saying all of the right thinking people are over here and all of you over there are the enemy, as opposed to a community where there's a little more of a permeable membrane saying like, well, you know what, we stand for these values, but yeah, come on in and see if it's the right thing, for you. Like there's
And to me, the community has three things: love, kindness, and respect. If you just have those three things, those are not political statements. They're not
no.
right or left or anything like that. It's humanity. It's like, the old saying, there's only one race, the human race. When you frame it and people buy into it, it's like, I can be loving, I can be kind, I can be respectful, I can share. I don't want to be in a community that's an echo chamber where we all agree on the same few points and we're adamant about them and we're not open to anything else, because that to me is a waste of time.
Mhm.
As a matter of fact, the funny thing is, like, when we get older, like, well, this is who I am, that I'm not gonna and I've told that to my kids who are adults now. The older I get, the more flexible I want to be, the more I want to be more open-minded to learn from the newer generation. Yes, from millennials and Gen Zs and then my kids and and grandkids. Like, I don't want to be, well, I know everything and this is who I am and I've been around longer than everybody else. Because now most of the times in meetings, I'm the oldest person.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I want to be more open-minded, more flexible, more curious, like the other way around. Like, I want to be that way until the day I die.
I love that, and I think that's something you and I share, is that desire to learn from people that maybe have not learned some of the same mistakes that I have, and that have different perspectives and different life experiences. There's a lot to be learned from everyone, and it doesn't matter how many gray hairs or lack of hairs that you have. There's always something, that you can learn from whoever you happen to be talking
But
to.
I'm not going to learn that if my community is homogeneous and it's exactly the same. We're all saying the same things. We're all like patting ourselves on the back, and we're all like so stuck and closed off to everybody else who's different than us. That doesn't work. Plus, that's not a healthy community, and that's a lot more cultish, just like you described.
Yeah, yeah. So, is there anything by way of like setting those conditions? I think you said kindness, respect,
Love.
and love
Yeah. Yes.
in these spaces. That's really all about just sort of describing what the community is about when people are coming into it, making sure that you're transparent about its purpose and
Right.
what you're
And
trying
that
to
and that's the expectations I was talking about before. This is what this community is all about. This is
Mhm.
what we're about. Um, and we invite and we hope to have people from all over the world and from all over, different walks of life, different experiences. And if somebody is very different than what you're used to, get more curious than judgmental. That's the easiest way to do it. Like,
Mhm.
wow, like I've never even heard of that before. Why would you say that? Like, where are you coming from?
Yeah,
Versus like, well, you're a jerk and I disagree with you and you're a villain and I'm gonna,
yeah.
castigate you. Yeah.
Is there anything that can unwind the damage that's been done, really, kind of in the social media, like the broad social media spaces right now? Because it seems like it's just a world of toxic attack and unkindness and distrust of institutions, of each other, of any new creative endeavor. Like, you can't put out a movie without people trolling it and just being
And they
nasty.
might even troll ours like being too soft or whatever, but I don't really like. The only thing that I control is my attitude. The only thing I control is what comes out of my mouth. And we all listen, we all have a sphere of influence. So to answer your questions, you have a sphere of influence, I have a sphere of influence. Sometimes it's 10 people, 100, 1,000, a million, or whatever our sphere of influence is. How do we show up within that our sphere of influence? And I think that's personal responsibility for each one of us. I can't control what happens at the White House, the Black House, the Purple House, or whatever house. You know what I'm saying? Like, I
Yes.
can't control that. I don't control the economy. I certainly don't control the weather. But what do I control? I do control my own attitude towards things,
Mhm.
and I control how I treat myself, and I control how I treat other people. That is within my control. So for me, so when I come across toxic people, I'm like, hey, Todd, just time out for a minute. For the most part, nobody's perfect. Do I treat you with love, kindness, and respect? Yes or no? For the most part. And if your answer is yes, you do, Elia, then I'm going to say, you know what? Then I expect you to also treat me with love, kindness, and respect, because isn't that fair?
Yes.
But it
Yes.
starts with me. It starts with how I show up. I can't be a jerk to you, Todd, and then expect you to be loving, kind, and respectful to me. That's not right. So it starts with the person in the mirror. How do I show up in my relationships? How do I show up on online? How do I show up in these communities? But if I do my part and somebody's out of line, then I have every right to call them out. Every right.
I, I,
And
I,
usually people kind of go, whoa, 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 whoa. I'm like, do I? Yes. Because if you tell me I don't, then if I need to apologize to you for something, if I've offended you, then tell me. But if you say, no, Ilya, for the most part, you do show up happy, loving, kind, respectfully, so on. Okay, then Todd, you got to treat me the same way, man. That's it. And if you don't, there's going to be an issue.
yeah, no, I love that. I hope that we're maybe at least culturally or as a zeitgeist looking at maybe turning a corner with that world. I don't know if we
I
are.
hope so.
Um, I, 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 I'm a big old comic book nerd, and I was delighted to see the Superman movie this
How is
summer.
it? Is it good?
It was very good, and I think you would like it because, one of the things that's come out of it that people have really liked was Superman as a character is very concerned. Like, he's just a basically decent person that wants to believe the best in everybody, and um, and
I
it,
do
and it,
too.
and it,
I'm that way. I do want to believe in the best in
yeah,
people.
and,
Absolutely.
and and so like a lot of it is sort of like his character journey about realizing that like that's just something, it's not about his parents and how they were. It's not about his girlfriend Lois, who has a very different view of the world, but it's about how he's choosing to participate in the world because he wants to help, and like
Right.
literally like he goes and intervenes in an international incident. He's not thinking about the politics of it. He's thinking about, how do I save some people's lives? How do I do something good, with what I can do? And I think one of the messages that came out of it is, he's sort of like a punk rock fan, and Lois takes him to task for really just liking, the pop, kind of bubbly, version of that. And he says, well, but maybe being kindness is the new punk,
I love that. I
yeah.
love that.
And for me, like that's the first burst of light I've seen in the zeitgeist, in a while, around that. And it
As
gives me
I've
a little
entered,
hope.
yeah, Todd, as I've entered the kindness community globally, not just in the United States now, and there are ambassadors, from all over the world. I happen to be the kindness worldwide ambassador to Greece, actually, being my home country. That was
It's amazing,
that's an
man.
easy one. I'm seeing more and more people doing wonderful, wonderful things. And our goal, my partner and I, we have a company called the Kindness Factor International, is to showcase basically kindness in the entertainment industry,
Hmm.
and to showcase, because there's so much good stuff happening, just most people don't know about it. And if you turn on the news, which is a terrible idea, by the way, turning on the news, because the news, number one, is not news, right? What they used to be called the news is now full-blown propaganda on both sides. There's
Mhm.
no news anymore. It's propaganda. So limit your exposure to part of the propaganda. But there's so many good things, good news, good people are doing wonderful things. And our goal is to showcase them and hopefully have others be inspired by these wonderful and good events. And the movies, like, I feel like that's the tip of the spear for us, because it's our first big endeavor
Yeah.
to produce something like that. And we're very humble, honored, beautiful, like, and excited about where this is going to go.
Well, I will say I'm eager to see your documentary when
Thank
it's
you.
out. It sounds like it's going to
Thank
be
you. And I'll send you some. Yeah, we have a couple of trailers out already. I can send those to you so you can take a look and tell me what your thoughts actually.
that's wonderful. That's really wonderful. So aside from the documentary, and I know you're going to be taking some time in Greece,
I am.
to enjoy life and continue on. Like what else is on your mind these days? Like what is the work that's topmost for you, and
I, I
what's
think the
keeping you?
kindness work is because at this stage, I mean, I've done the coaching, I've done all that stuff. At this stage, really, it's the kindness movement, and to be a small cog in this movement, in this wheel, and to have. I've already seen how it's impacted people, but I can't wait for this movie to come out. It's very well produced. I have a great director who's a storyteller, who basically took the story of this young lady who was down on her luck, but ended up finding somebody's wallet in a supermarket, and she was down on her luck big time. And rather than taking the wallet or taking the contents of the wallet and using it for whatever, she decided to return it to this man who's pretty well off. And if he had lost his wallet, it wouldn't be the end of the world, financially
Mhm.
speaking, so on. And he just decided to not to say thank you to this lady who was anonymous at the time, but to go the extra mile. And that's the whole point. And as a result of that, out of that, created a nonprofit organization that now has grown from York, Pennsylvania, which is the epicenter of this kindness act, all the way to Australia and all over the world. And I'm like, wow, look at this. One person, one small act has triggered a global movement. So I'm very optimistic about the future of this world. If that can happen in York, Pennsylvania, it can happen from York to New York, as we
Yes,
say.
yes. That's a you said that I'm an old movie buff. I love old Hollywood, 1930s, 1940s. That sounds like the plot of a 1930s feel good
I know
Frank
he does,
Capra or something. Yeah.
and it is. And and I haven't been on, I haven't seen all the things that our director has filmed and so on. So I'm a little bit in the dark myself and excited to see it when it all comes together. I mean, because I haven't been uh, I mean, he's filmed throughout the world, not just the United States. We had an opportunity to speak at a World Kindness Conference in Palermo, Italy last year. And he flew out there and filmed people from all over the world. And it's magical to see. We have more things that unite us that divide us in this world. In spite of what the media says, there's so much more that unites us if we look for it. So in our communities, online communities, if we look at what we have in common versus what makes us different, that goes a long way. And just because somebody is different, whether they're different looking, their speech, their talk, or their language, whatever is different, just get more curious and get to know them better. Because when you get to know people, you realize that, man, we're just like, we all want the same things. We want to support our families. We want happiness. We want health. We want freedom. We want, liberty. I mean, these are the things that really unites us. Nobody wants somebody else to be miserable unless they themselves are so miserable they can't get out of their way. But if you're not miserable, don't you want everybody to be happy and successful? And how does somebody else's success reduce my success? It doesn't. Right?
Unless someone has tried to convince you that something's being taken away from you if someone else gets something. And I think that gets back to the propaganda.
But this is the abundance mentality versus the scarcity mentality. If I truly believe in an abundance mindset and heart set, if somebody said, man, I closed this deal or whatever, like, good for you. Congratulations. That's great. How does that reduce my, it doesn't. I'm happy for them. Good for them.
Yes.
No jealousy. Good for you. I'm really glad for you. That's it.
There was a point after the pandemic where a lot of community professionals, people that help manage and build online community spaces, were finding themselves out of a job. They were out.
Yes.
And they said, and there were some people, in our space who just said, yeah, we're seeing a contraction. There's just not going to be space for people to do this work anymore. There's just nothing here. But my attitude has always been, there's more here than you know. There's more opportunity here. Like I think that difference between scarcity and abundance affects us in profound ways.
Profound ways. You're so right, Todd. You're so right.
And if you think of things in a scarcity mindset, you're going to be thinking about like, well, how do I keep what's mine? As opposed to abundance, where you're recognizing that, hey, if they're successful and they're successful and they're successful, I can be successful too. And there's going to be enough for everybody to do.
And the scarcity mentality, which is obviously based on fear. The one thing I would tell your audience too, you never want to make decisions based on fear. I have in the past, not that much anymore, but when I've made decisions based on fear, it hasn't worked out. When I made decisions based because my heart was open, I listened to my intuition, positivity and so on, it has always worked out. That's the funny thing. So it's not the circumstances, it's my own attitude towards those circumstances that have dictated whether something is successful or not.
I think that's a wonderful message. Elia, I know we've kind of ranged far with our conversation here today. If someone wants to learn more about the kindness movement, or be sure that they catch your event, I know you've got some links that you've provided me, and we'll make sure that we include them with this meeting. But if you want to maybe just kind of talk about where somebody can find them and how they can get
for such a time as this. So on LinkedIn, and I'm posting on social media because the trailers are out. We're just starting the campaign. Actually, it's been up until now. We're into August now, so now we're able to begin. I'll keep posting on LinkedIn trailers every week of the show. So take a look. I mean, the trailers are usually 1 or 2 minutes, so it doesn't take a lot of your time, but hopefully communicates the importance of kindness and how impactful it can be in people's lives and in communities and so on, whether that's online communities or live communities. So, and I want to thank you, Todd, for always being a voice of kindness, a voice of curious intellectual. I mean, you challenge me, which I really like. That it's like, man, nobody's ever asked me those questions before. Usually, I get the questions I get all the time, but your brain thinks in a different way, and it's beautiful, actually. And thank you for what you do to create communities that have impact, because in the end, isn't it when we talk about sphere of influence, it's what impact are we going to have on people?
Yeah.
What will the impact be? Negative, positive, neutral? And I hope, my whole goal in life is to leave this world better than I found it. And I've had that since I was a kid. I've known my purpose in life has been leave this world better than you found it. And if everybody can take that approach, imagine how different this world would be, right? So there you go.
Well, thank you so much for that. And yes, I think you're absolutely right. And that's, I think especially like even since the pandemic, I've rededicated myself to thinking about like, why am I doing what I do? And,
Right.
what is my purpose here? And it made me realize that what I've been ranging towards all this time has really been on this idea that nobody should have to be alone. And the online spaces we have enable more connection, even if someone is limited in how they can reach the world. As we said a little earlier in the conversation, you and I've never met. We may never meet face to face, but hey, we're friends, and that kind of connection is powerful and special in and of itself.
Yeah, I mean, this is an example of, two people who have never met, right? And, you had me before in your pod, and we haven't really talked in 3 or 4 years. But the minute you texted me, you asked me to come on this, I'm like, it's Todd Nilson. Of course I would do it. Why? No. It's not a compliment. It's a fact. Of course I would do it because I care about you, because you're loving, kind, and respectful. If somebody else was a jerk and wanted to use me, for example, like I would say, no, I'm not doing it. And at this point, because I've had so many things coming at me, I don't say yes to everything because I have to limit my time. But for you, it was a no-brainer. Immediately, I'm like, yes, let's find a date and let's do it. That's it. And that's because the relationship you and I have established, that's based on respect, mutual respect, and and so on.
Well, I definitely appreciate it, and I'm sure our viewers appreciate you taking the time to be on this stream before your wonderful long vacation in Greece. I hope that
it's not even a vacation because I work from there too. I just the time is different, but I do swim in the Mediterranean every day, which is different than being in Boulder, Colorado, in the Rocky Mountains. So that part is a lot better to me because I'm a water person. So yes, I look forward to that. Hey, you know what's so funny, Todd? You and I haven't spoken. Like I almost retired 2 years ago because I was like, what else can I do in life? I've done enough. I mean, I'm good. I mean, we're starting to have grandkids, and I had somebody say, Elia, why are you retiring? You love what you do. And I'm like, huh. And it was great advice, actually, because I had to self-reflect and say, what am I retiring from if I love what I do? So whether I'm in Greece or Europe and the United States or whatever, if you enjoy what you're doing, there is no retirement. There's no such word. Just keep doing what you enjoy doing and you're passionate about and live your purpose. And so I don't think that's ever going to change. As a matter of fact, had that happened, I wouldn't be producing this movie now. I would be done. Like, isn't that interesting? I was so close to exiting, and this movie wouldn't have happened.
That is so true. And as I get a little older, I just had my 57th birthday.
You're still young, my friend. Just wait till you get to be my age.
You're a young man. So I think that I think that yes, like I don't think about retirement. Although it's something that I kind of see on a horizon. I don't see myself doing that. I think it's just a matter of choosing to do the work at your own pace that you love to do.
Right. So it's different. Yeah. It may not be full-time work or whatever, but exactly. You're choosing your project. You're choosing what you want to do at the pace that you want to do it, which is different. So that's a good point. But
well,
thank you. I appreciate you.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate you as well. And for those of you who have tuned in, I would ask that if you enjoyed this show and you'd like to see more interviews with people who have a perspective on building wonderful spaces online and off, please subscribe to our YouTube channel for Clocktower Advisors, or you can follow our company page for Clocktower Advisors on LinkedIn, where we post up all of our events and you can watch our back catalog of interviews there. And in the meantime, thank you again, Elia, for spending some time with me here today. And for those of you who tuned in, have an excellent rest of the week or weekend, depending on when this episode drops. And be good to yourselves and keep building great communities. Thanks again, Elia.
Thank you, Todd. And remember, do not procrastinate your happiness. Live your best life now, starting today.
Love that. Love that.